Imagine a man in ancient Athens wandering the streets, stopping people in the marketplace, and asking them deep, unsettling questions about life, morality, and knowledge. This was Socrates, one of the most influential philosophers in history, a man who never wrote a single word himself, but whose ideas continue to shape the way we think today. Socrates was born around 470 BCE in Athens, Greece. Unlike the aristocratic philosophers who came after him, he was of humble origins. His father, Socrates, was a stonemason, and his mother, Phanerete, was a midwife. Though he may have followed his father's trade for a time, Socrates would eventually take up a different kind of craftsmanship, shaping ideas and challenging minds. Physically, Socrates did not fit the Greek ideal of beauty. He was described as having a stocky build, a broad nose, and bulging eyes. But what he lacked in appearance, he made up for in intellect and charisma. He had a sharp wit, an unyielding curiosity, and a way of making people question their deepest beliefs. Unlike the philosophers before him, who speculated about the nature of the cosmos, Socrates was more interested in human life, ethics, and knowledge. His focus was not on what the universe was made of, but on how people should live. He asked questions like, what is justice? What is virtue? What does it mean to live a good life? Socrates never lectured or gave formal teachings. Instead, he engaged people in conversations, guiding them to their own conclusions through a process now known as the Socratic method. He would ask a series of probing questions, exposing contradictions in people's thoughts and forcing them to think deeper. His goal was to show that wisdom begins with recognizing one's own ignorance. Although Socrates himself never wrote anything down, his students and contemporaries recorded his ideas and preserved his legacy. Three of the most important figures connected to Socrates were Plato, Xenophon, and Aristophanes. The devoted student Plato is the reason we know so much about Socrates today. He was a devoted follower who recorded many of Socrates' dialogues, often portraying him as the central character. Through works like The Apology, The Republic, and Phaedo, Plato shaped our understanding of Socrates' teachings. However, scholars debate how much of what Plato wrote was Socrates' actual philosophy and how much was his own interpretation. Xenophon was another student of Socrates, but unlike Plato, he was more of a historian and soldier than a philosopher. His works, such as Memorabilia and Apology, provide a simpler and less mystical view of Socrates. While Plato's Socrates is deeply philosophical, Xenophon's Socrates is more practical and concerned with everyday wisdom. Not everyone admired Socrates. The playwright Aristophanes satirized him in his comedy The Clouds, portraying Socrates as a foolish thinker who corrupted the youth with ridiculous ideas. This play played a role in shaping public opinion against Socrates and contributed to the charges that led to his trial. The trial and death of Socrates. Despite his influence, Socrates made powerful enemies. He was seen as a troublemaker who challenged traditions and exposed the ignorance of Athens' most respected citizens. In 399 BCE, he was put on trial for corrupting the youth and impiety, disrespecting the gods of Athens. Socrates' defense, recorded by Plato in the Apology, was both defiant and ironic. He refused to beg for mercy or change his ways. He argued that he was actually benefiting Athens by forcing people to think critically. He famously compared himself to a gadfly, a small but persistent insect that stirs a sluggish horse, representing the Athenian state. The jury, however, was not convinced. He was found guilty and sentenced to death by drinking poisoned hemlock. Even then, Socrates remained true to his beliefs. His last moments, described in Plato's Phaedo, show him discussing the immortality of the soul with his followers before calmly accepting his fate. Socrates' legacy. Though he died over 2,400 years ago, Socrates' impact on philosophy is immeasurable. His method of questioning laid the foundation for critical thinking and logic. His teachings influenced Plato, who in turn taught Aristotle, shaping Western philosophy for centuries to come. Today, Socrates is remembered as a symbol of wisdom, courage, and intellectual integrity. His life reminds us that philosophy is not just about abstract ideas, but about questioning the world, seeking truth, and living with purpose. This was just the beginning of Socrates' journey. In our next video, we will dive into one of his most powerful tools, the Socratic method, and how it revolutionized the way we think. Stay tuned.